Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Can you please tell me if you can see and hear me with a 5x5 in the chat? I am also stating to you that this isn't going to be a long video for two reasons. One is because directly after this, it's going to go on to just before 8:30. And the reason is because I'm booked in with a time slot of an hour with Rumble that's showing me through, with their technical support, that's showing me through their platform. For some reason, they decided to send me an email and said, we want you to port over to the new platform, which I intend to do. So I'm going to be doing that. But one thing I do want to show you on my screen at the moment, first of all, let me just say this to everyone watching. I'm always grateful that this audience turns up, has a listen to everything, but I do try and scan as much as I can from the appeal courts and Supreme Court to see what's going on. Always, I may add, for the benefit of us, right? Not just me, but you as well. And there was a particular court case today. I've actually sent a copy of it to Andrew Bridgeton. And it's important that people see it. So hopefully you're going to be able to see this. Let me pull it on the screen. Touch wood, you can see it come up on your screen. It's this one. The judgment was released today. The case was held last year. Versus Webb, George, and another. It's quite a distressing story. This ended up in the High Court, and it ended up in the Court of Appeal. I believe it's a criminal appeal division. And I'm just going to let you know what it is. Crime, modern slavery, holding a person in slavery or servitude, defendants coercing and controlling disabled victim into providing them with employment and housing, victim providing no work or services to defendants, whether offence of holding a person in slavery or servitude established, and whether open to a jury to convict if not satisfied slavery established but satisfied of servitude, whether single offence committed in two different ways or two separate offences, whether deprivation of personal autonomy required for the conviction for slavery. Just to make sure, the deprivation of personal autonomy is required for the conviction for slavery. Right? Bear in mind, this is a common law hearing. This is the distressing part. I don't know if you want me to read it all out to you or not, but it's a very interesting case. The victim, who suffered from cerebral palsy, needed substantial physical care and assistance, and employed a carer. The first defendant, who without his knowledge began an affair with his wife. The second defendant, it was the Crown's case that the defendants actively coerced and controlled the victim, separating him from his family. This is very narcissistic, from his family, and making him report back to the care agency and social services that the defendant carer was doing his job competently, when instead the victim was being held in servitude or slavery. The victim had not provided work for the defendants, but had been coerced into enabling the defendant carer to keep his job and income when he was failing in his duties as a carer and behaving abusively to him over a 2.5 year period, with the result that he provided a home to both defendants. The Crown contended that because the victim was enslaved, the defendants could enjoy their way of life, and if he had been free to decide for himself who to employ as his carer, he would have dispensed with the first defendant's services. The defendants were charged, inter alia, with holding a person in slavery or servitude contrary to Section 1(1)(a) of the Modern Slavery Act 2015, count 1, and both denied coercing the victim into providing employment for the defendant and housing and money for them. So I'm not going to go into all of this, although it's a very interesting case, but I will cut down to the bottom part, and that is that they quashed the conviction for slavery. I think they upheld the conviction for servitude, but they give their reasoning, and it's a really interesting case, because at the bottom here, which I have highlighted, this is what the judges put on the end of the judgment, per curiam. So, in other words, I believe this means, I haven't looked up the Latin, but take our advice, I think it means. The authors of the Crown Court Compendium may wish to consider how to frame the question as to the meaning of slavery for the jury, right? So basically, they had quashed the slavery conviction because they said that the judge had misdirected the jury, right? Why is all of this important? Because if you ever plead guilty to anything, you've never got a chance of getting in front of an appeal court or taking it any higher. And it doesn't matter if it's 20 years later, you've still got a chance, right? My point to you on this is that when you instruct the judge, when you defend yourself, that you have a Bill of Rights, that the Bill of Rights is in full force, and you use any of them rights in any court case, by the way, because it's foundational law, it's constitutional law, they then must explain it to the jury, and they must be correct in their explanation to the jury. And if they're not, they run the risk of you getting acquitted on appeal, because if the free appeal court judges say that's not right, what you've said there is wrong to the jury, or they could say that you misinstructed the jury and call for a retrial, right? This is why this is also important, and it's crucially important that you use constitutional law when especially in any form of these cases. But barristers will not do this for you. I would. And they've removed people like me. But I'm just going to read this out because it's crucially important, right? The authors of the Crown Court Compendium may wish to consider how to frame the question as to the meaning of slavery for the jury. Two formulations of the general principle of consideration are: 1, are you sure that the defendant exercised power over the victim? Right? Now think of employers, think of the government, right? As one might as an owner, which deprived him of the exercise of his free will as a person in his own right. Think of COVID, think of what they did with the jabs. Think of how they coerce people. 2, are you sure that the defendant made the victim his slave? That is, stopped him from being a person in his own right by exercising coercive power over him, treating him as if he owned him. Right? Now, this has been taken out of European Convention Court, two cases. Right? Now, it appears that they want to use the law to suit themselves, but making sure, could you all understand what I'm trying to get at with this case? This case was only released today. The judgment was only released today, and they have expressed coercion and exercising power over a victim. And the other key the main thing is which deprived him of his own autonomy. Now, if you go back further up here, it talks about the autonomy of the person, and if you coerce someone and they are not acting through their own volition to do something, you have removed their autonomy. That is unlawful. And by doing so and exercising them powers, you are in effect enslaving the person, right? But the crucial part of this case is that the three appeal court judges, who are all in agreement, was that the trial judge misdirected the jury, right? The two defendants got guilty. I think they're still guilty of the servitude, but they've crossed the conviction for slavery, and now they've got to re-bringing it with because they've got to be two separate cases. Slavery, and what they explained in their judgment is servitude is illegal, and so is slavery, right? In this country now, servitude never used to be illegal in this country, right? It was like a covenant between you and your employer, right? Or how did you could be indentured to a house, right? So you might have to say that for the next 10 years you will be the I don't know, scrubbing the floors in my house or whatever. That slavery definition could be said for the council tax. I'll tell you what. What's funny about that is not funny ha-ha, but funny peculiar. If with council tax, let's say you reported a crime to the police and they didn't take it forward, and by the way, the CPS have only been in operation since 1985. It's part of the slow march through the institutions, and that's when the policing and the courts and everything started going seriously pear-shaped in this country. In 1985, so the CPS as it currently is, never existed before. And I've said this on many times on the show before. That's a massive problem, right? I'm not suggesting the police weren't a problem because they were, but the judges would look at them differently because they were a separate entity. Technically they weren't part of the judicial system, right? Whereas the CPS is looked at, Crown Prosecution Service is looked at as an extension of the judicial system. So it causes all sorts of issues in that way. But I just wanted to make sure I've got this case across. If anyone wants to go and read about that, they can. But it's all on the screen as we speak. Don't forget, I ain't got long before I sign off on this one. So because I am tying up with my other little. Let's stop sharing. Let's go back to the main thing. Did everyone sort of understand what I was getting at there? And it's really important because, and I've sent a copy of the judgment, and I've sent that paragraph to Andrew Bridgeton, just to say to him, can you understand what they're saying? They're basically saying it's a criminal offence. If you remove someone's autonomy, you convert them to a slave. If you coerce someone against their will, you're converting them to a slave, right? But if you're an employer and you do that, that is a form of modern slavery, right? So just to make sure that ain't a minor case, and it's been, I think, completely ignored by the mainstream media. And it was very sad to see that someone who is suffering from multiple sclerosis, I think it was, and banging trouble, basically, really needs looking after, and his wife starts having an affair with a carer. Don't know what the history of all that was, because that's not in the judgment, but they did go through the story, and it appears to be a very sad case, and I think that is why the CPS took it forward. Because you had the other element of it where, as a carer, the guy is being paid by the state, right? And you just have to be careful of that type of stuff. Other things that have happened today, I'm seeing quite a bit going on out there at the moment. I saw a video from Connor Tomlinson where he was having a little pop someone that, let me have a look and see if I can find it, because I think this is going to be, I've told you that and there's a video of me and him on this channel. He's a wrong on a geezer. Let me have a look. Let me put it up for you. But again, I just want to express to everyone with reference to, let me have a look and see if I can find it. Anyone with reference to, let me put that up there. That was a good one. General Flynn has just sent out something that everyone needs to watch. I can't see it on the screen yet. I wonder if Tomlinson's out there, Connor. Connor Tomlinson. I can't find him. Let's see if he comes up anywhere. Oh, there he is. What's he actually looking at me? No. They do tend to stay away from me, these people. I wonder why. Let me go back and show you this one. Right? I'm not going to, hopefully, you're not going to get stuck into the video, but I'm going to show you this guy because you'll know him. Paul Rimmer, his name is. And again, this is not me punching right, by the way. This geezer is not right-wing. He was a member of the Labour Party. He stood for the Labour Party originally. He puts himself as working class, and he was a doorman and a boxer and all that. He went to Cambridge University. He is indoctrinated. He literally is. He's just a left-wing infiltrator of anything that even looks like a proper patriot party. So Connor Tomlinson, nobody is saying on a doorstep I wasn't going to vote for reform until Farage welcomed that Indian fellow from the Labour Party on stage with some fireworks. DEI candidates not a shield against accusations of racism. They still call you a racist, right? So I'm just letting you know. I mean, if you go back through my videos, you'll find a video. There's plenty of people out there that pretend to be patriots and pretend to be anti-establishment, pretend all this stuff, and he's one of them, right? He also stood for the English Democrats, and he's a unionist, right? The difference, and I do mean this. People like Rupert Lowe and his team, right, may not like what I say, but there's one core element with me. I am not a politician and I'm not a diplomat, right? My expressed views and self-educated view, right, using these books behind me, everything that I've done so far, reading through, proper, real old books, 237 years old, that one is, waiting for another one to turn up that's, I think, 300 and something years old. My conviction is for England, and I am English, right? Someone showed me a clip the other day of Howard Cox. Did I mention this on the show the other night? And he explicitly said, he made a point of expressing this to everyone listening. He said, I am not English, I am British, right? So what these unionists are doing, and they are a minority in this country, and we all know what minorities do, right? And again, it's proven a minority, 2011 census. But people like Howard Cox are very dangerous because you think he's on your side. He's not. His thinking, right, will cut the throat of England, right? The difference between me and people like that is I will stand there and tell you I am English. I am in the majority that is being oppressed and suppressed in my own country. And the beauty of people like, I hope, right? And we've all got to have hope. If you don't have hope, that's why the USSR had the highest level of suicides anywhere in the world, because people had no hope. So when people start saying to me, you're living on hope, you're living on this, not very often, but when they do say it to me, I always say the same thing, right? The people in the USSR did not have hope, and they were committing suicide all over the place. Demoralisation is what these people do, and the British have honed it to perfection, right? Psychological warfare is exactly what they know how to do. They know how to divide people up. They know how to get people fighting each other, because all the time you're fighting each other, you ain't fighting them, right? So again, Rupert Lowe, I just want to make sure that he understands, even if he didn't read anything else, he reads the preamble of the English Bill of Rights, which says that evil counsellors, evil judges, evil blah blah, privy councillors, and it says that in the English Bill of Rights, right? They basically misinstructed the king. Now, misinstruction can come from two forms. It can be malicious and a conspiracy to subvert the English constitution, or it can be non-malicious, but the original intent of the people in the universities who subverted the education system, which they have done, their intent was malicious, right? So if you remember that the people like the Nazi Party in Germany, Nazi Germany, they had Hitler Youth, right? Now, I'm not saying that everything that Hitler did was bad, by the way, and I never have said that. In fact, I'm going to show you. I think it's still here. Yeah, it is, right? My sister, the other day, gave me a load of books. She came down and gave me my old school books, right? When I was about 12 years old, right? And I was in 107 Army Cadet Barry. Right? so any Royal Marine Commandos out there listening to this, you could actually call me a rubber dagger. Right? Yeah, social studies. There's my little book, right? And that was in Form 1B3, Miss Biddle. Hello, Miss Biddle, if you're out there watching it, I'll doubt it. Oh, social studies. Let's see if I've got any I love yous anywhere, right? One of these books, I'm sure, has got little messages to my girlfriend. But there's that book, and I was about 12 years old, right? But my reading, did I show you all this before? Don't forget, I've got my dinosaur up there. You see my dinosaur? I showed you my dinosaur, didn't I? My dinosaur's up there. Do you want to see my dinosaur? I don't want to keep touching this in case I knock the towel off. There's my dinosaur, right? So this is Dino, right? So hopefully you've met Dino now, right? He's got a tiny little brain. He's a lovely fella, right? I walked home with him all proud on my own. By the way, my mum never picked me up from school. I used to walk home, even at 6 years old. And I brought Dino back, right? So we're going to put him back up there. But I am not a fascist, and I'm not a communist. I'm an Englishman. And the Halsbury's Laws of England, right, tell you that fascists and communists must be purged from the civil service. So I want to know why it is that the whole of the civil service is being run by exactly them people, right? So all people like Rupert Lowe have got to do is listen, right? But when I was 12 years old, just in case people wonder why I'm not a lover of the Nazis, it's because I read that, right? And my sister said to me, I can't believe when you were 12 years old you was reading that, right? The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich, right? and it's still with me to this day, just to let you know. So if everyone understands what that is, A History of Nazi Germany by William L. Shirer. But that is not to say, and it is not to say, let me have a look at that, that I dislike everything that the Nazis did. And I think there's a lot of purposeful misinformation and propaganda out there that needs to be corrected. And I think the best education is if you go and have a look at real journalists and what they've written. People like David Irving, for example. Right. So anyone out there, Grasshopper, you're back. Hello, darling. How are you? You're my favourite northern lass. Because you make me scrambled eggs and bacon every morning. The only thing I was missing was me Marmite. I have Marmite on everything. Right, Europa, the last battle gives a different perspective on what. No, I agree. And Europa, the last battle, I've seen that in full. So, but what I'm trying to say to you all, right, is I am open-minded. All I want is the truth. I'm not interested in people's lies. I'm not interested in propaganda. I'm not interested in any of the things. All I'm interested in doing is getting to the truth and communicating the truth to you. That's it. So getting back to Rupert Lowe and people like that, Paul Rimmer. Paul Rimmer is not who you think he is. He never has been, right? There's been a number of people that stood for English Democrats. One of the reasons I left was because they was far too soft, and in essence, they wanted to put an English flag over Westminster, but keep the British system. I was like, that ain't a bit of me. That's not what I want. I want to go back to the English Constitution and the English common law in its entirety. We go back to counties. We go back to govern ourselves as Englishmen. We go back to giving the people back their freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, freedom of thought. And here's the key thing, freedom of speech. And all of those freedoms are what created for the English the greatest nation on earth. Why? Because it gave you the freedom to invent. When human beings come together and invent and engineer and talk to each other, and all of a sudden you start rising up as a civilization. And that's exactly what the English did, right? And that is what the Soviet Union, in key point, suppressed and oppressed with absolute vigor and purposely murdered somewhere in the region of 70 million Christians. So that's it. But we want to restore all of our freedoms. Restore England. That's a great name for a website. Who did that? Who's got Restore England? Let me have a look. I'll just see you. You've flown past my screen. Well, I've got to go on this meeting at 8:30, so I've got to go now, really. I will be live again tomorrow evening. I might do a little bit of a clip on some other things and come out there, but hopefully everyone's got it. So I apologise, but Rumble on a different time zone to us. So don't forget what I believe in. The Constitution is the solution. Remember, you can all go and read about that case. It's a very short judgment who basically gave you the definition of slavery and that should be put to a jury. And I think everyone here should recognise it. There should be no coercion, and the person must have full autonomy. If they haven't, then they're a slave. Can you tell me, was you coerced in any way? Did they attempt to coerce you into the jab? Did they threaten that you won't have a job with us unless you have the jab? Because that is removing your personal autonomy, and that is highly unlawful. Just to let you know. Good night, God bless. Don't forget what I believe in. The Constitution is the solution.